Let's dive straight in.
The mutation trigger.
It starts small, a cell splitting wrong, a code breaking in silence. Mutations aren't flashy, they're quiet rebels inside our DNA. Every human carries about 60 new genetic mutations compared to their parents. Most mean nothing. But some? They rewrite instincts. They twist hunger, emotion, even fear. It's the same process that drives evolution. Random changes that stick if they help survival. But nature doesn't care what help looks like. Imagine a mutation that suppresses empathy or boosts aggression. That's not impossible. We've seen genes like MAOAL linked to violent behavior. In the wrong mix, that could reshape human nature itself. The first signs wouldn't look like monsters. They'd look like people, just colder, detached, hungry for sensation. Society wouldn't even notice until those traits multiplied. One generation later, the next step might not feel human at all. It's not an infection, it's an inheritance. And that's where the zombie story really begins.
DNA errors that rewrite us.
Inside your body, DNA repairs itself billions of times a day. But sometimes the fix goes wrong. Cosmic rays, radiation, or even your morning sunlight can cause point mutations, tiny typos in the code that runs you. Most cells self-destruct when they detect the error. But some survive and evolve. Scientists at the University of Chicago found that when repair genes fail, the body starts producing malformed proteins. These can mess with neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, the chemicals that control emotion and self-control. Think of a person who stops feeling pain or empathy but still craves stimulation. That's the start of something primal. The same principle drives cancer, runaway growth with no off switch. Now imagine that happening in the brain. Neural clusters rewriting themselves, silencing logic, amplifying hunger. No virus needed, just a cascade of bad fixes, a mutation storm. And when instincts rewrite the brain, reason disappears, leaving only survival.
The Rabies Connection.
Rabies is nature's zombie virus. Once symptoms appear, survival is almost zero. The virus moves fast, about 100 millimeters per day, crawling through nerves toward the brain. When it gets there, it hijacks behavior. Aggression spikes, swallowing stops, and thirst becomes torture. The reason victims drool? Their throat muscles lock up. The reason they bite? The virus spreads through saliva. Rabies evolved to make hosts spread it before dying. It's a biological nightmare designed for transmission. In 2012, scientists sequenced rabies strains and found similarities to other neurotropic viruses, the kind that could, with mutation, alter cognition instead of just motor control. A virus that tweaks human emotion instead of just killing the body could theoretically produce a living zombie, mobile, enraged, contagious. Rabies isn't fiction. It's evolution showing what's possible, and it's not the only parasite that takes over minds. Next, we dive into the creatures that already control brains and could one day control ours.
Brain parasites that take control.
In the animal world, zombies already exist. The fungus. Ophiocordyceps unilateralis infects ants, forcing them to climb to high leaves before killing them, the perfect spot for the fungus to spread. Toxoplasma gondii, a parasite in cats, makes mice lose their fear of predators. One mutation, one chemical shift, and behavior flips completely. Humans can catch Toxoplasma too. Around 1/3 of the world's population is infected. Most people never notice, but studies show higher risk-taking and slower reactions in infected individuals. That's subtle control. Now picture a mutated strain that crosses from animal to human nervous systems, modifying impulse control genes or fear response centers. It wouldn't create mindless corpses, it would create living carriers. Calm on the outside, rewired inside. It's not about infection anymore, it's about programming. And when chemistry meets control, evolution gets dangerous. Next, we look at the chemicals that could accelerate that process inside the brain.
The chemical breakdown.
Every emotion, memory, or decision you make is a chemical reaction. Dopamine rewards you. Serotonin stabilizes you. Glutamate keeps the brain firing. Now imagine a substance, natural or engineered, that disrupts that balance. Experiments in the 1960s tested compounds like scopolamine, known as the devil's breath, which erases free will temporarily. Victims under its influence follow commands while appearing conscious. Mix that with neurotoxins like tetrodotoxin from pufferfish, which slows metabolism to near death, and you get something chillingly close to zombie behavior. In Haiti, zombie powder was rumored to use these chemicals to fake death and induce mindless obedience. It wasn't supernatural, it was biochemistry. Modern versions could go further, hacking neurotransmitters at scale. A population exposed to such chemicals via weapon, accident, or evolution would lose will before life. And that's where mutation meets madness. But there's a place where mutation was forced on humans for real: Chernobyl.
Chernobyl and the radiation effect.
The explosion released 400 times more radiation than Hiroshima. Forests turned red overnight. Animals were born with twisted spines, 2 heads, no eyes. It was a mutation in real time. Radiation rips DNA apart. The body's repair systems panic, rebuilding strands with random sequences. Some cells die, others survive in warped forms. Decades later, scientists found wolves in the exclusion zone with abnormal immunity. Their DNA adapted to radiation. Stronger, faster, and indifferent to human presence. Imagine similar exposure in humans. Radiation survivors with altered brain chemistry, their nervous systems rewired to endure pain or fear differently. Not walking corpses, but people with instincts unrecognizable to us. Chernobyl proved mutation isn't fantasy, it's evolution under pressure. And when viruses mix with radiation, we get something else: transformation that spreads. Let's look at viruses that already modify human behavior.
The virus that changes behavior.
Viruses don't just infect, they manipulate. The influenza virus makes you sneeze more to spread faster. Cytomegalovirus changes brain chemistry in lab mice, reducing fear. Rabies, we already know, drives rage. In 2018, researchers in Japan discovered that some viruses alter dopamine pathways in the brain, directly changing mood and decision-making. That's behavioral engineering through infection. Now imagine a hybrid, a virus designed or mutated to survive longer in the body by keeping hosts mobile and aggressive. Not dead, just stripped of restraint. Symptoms could look like mania, sleeplessness, pain resistance, extreme hunger. The perfect recipe for chaos. The line between infection and mutation blurs. And when that line disappears, survival instincts replace morality. It's not the apocalypse, it's a reprogramming. But what happens when entire populations start changing at once?
The collapse of the human system.
Civilization runs on predictability, empathy, order, trust. A mass behavioral mutation destroys that instantly. Imagine a city where 5% of people stop recognizing others as human. Small, but enough to break everything. Roads jam, hospitals overrun, governments freeze. In 2020, we saw how one virus, just one, could bring global systems to a halt. Now combine that chaos with neurological change. A mutation that spreads quietly through generations or air. Suddenly, the threat isn't infection, it's evolution diverging within us. Economies collapse, communication fractures, and violence becomes a survival instinct. The social brain, the part that built civilization, decays first. The world doesn't end in fire. It ends in disconnection. And out of that breakdown, something new rises, something post-human.
When humanity becomes the experiment.
Once mutation reaches a tipping point, it stops being a medical issue and becomes a new species event. The zombie isn't a corpse. It's a version of us built for a harsher world. Less empathy, more survival. Geneticists already talk about directed evolution, using CRISPR to alter human genes. If those tools ever went wrong or fell into the wrong hands, the first experimental subjects could look human but act entirely different. No remorse, no social wiring, just function. At that stage, humanity wouldn't disappear. It would fragment, half clinging to the past, half becoming something unrecognizable. The zombie story ends with us, not dying, but changing, and maybe we already started.